Yeah, that's where I am right now.
Standing in the middle of what should be a level 9 containment breach, watching a human medic cradle a writhing ball of infectious death like it's a misbehaving pet. Let me back up. My name is Vorn. I'm a containment specialist aboard the Galactic Health Security Station, Prometheus 7, which, if you're wondering, is exactly as exciting as it sounds. Most days involve monitoring sealed vaults, running sterilization protocols, and trying not to too about the 1700 ways the universe wants to kill you with microscopic nastiness. Today was not most days. The alarm started at 0600 station time. Not the gentle, hey, maybe check this out alarm. No, the full, screaming, everyone's about to die horribly klaxon that makes your secondary heart skip a beat and your protective scales try to retract into your body. I was in the observation deck when it happened. 3 cups of stimulant brew into my shift, watching the morning containment checks. Routine, boring, safe. Then Sector 12 lit up like a dying star. Breach in Vault 12 Delta. The station AI's voice had that particular electronic panic that meant things were catastrophically wrong. Class 9 biohazard, xenomorph variant, infectious contact protocol, estimated mortality rate, 98.7%. I may have made a noise. In my defense, it was a very dignified noise. Barely a whimper. Class 9 means if it touches you, start saying goodbye to your loved ones. It means decontamination procedures involve plasma fire and prayer. It means the kind of pathogen that makes entire planets into quarantine zones for the next 1,000 years. The entire station went into lockdown. Blast doors slammed shut with that final metallic thud that says, hope you're on the right side. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. The AI started reciting evacuation procedures in 17 languages, which, spoiler alert, there was nowhere to evacuate to when you're on a space station specifically designed to contain things that make planets uninhabitable. I pulled up the security feed from Vault 12 Delta, expecting to see, I don't know, apocalyptic horror, melting walls, the beginning of the end. What I saw was Dr. Marcus Reeves, human medic, standing perfectly still in his lab coat, staring at a softball-sized blob of pulsating iridescent tissue that was quite literally eating through its containment cylinder. The thing was beautiful in that absolutely terrifying way. It shimmered through colors that shouldn't exist, made sounds like screaming crystals, and was dissolving reinforced titanium alloy like it was wet paper. Little tendrils of the stuff were already spreading across the lab floor, and each droplet that hit the ground spawned 3 more. Standard protocol? Seal the room. Flood it with radiation. Incinerate everything. Hope the station survives. Marcus, apparently, had a different protocol. Oh, you little jerk, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice through the comms. Breaking out early, are we? The AI was having a digital stroke. Dr. Reeves, evacuate immediately. Class 9 containment breach. Biological hazard extreme. Do not, under any circumstances, make physical contact. Yeah, I hear you. Marcus pulled off his gloves. His gloves. The only thing between his fragile human skin and certain death. But here's the thing. I know this little guy. The negative physical contact will result in immediate infection, systemic failure, and death within 4.2 minutes. Probably. Marcus cracked his knuckles. But see, I got the vaccine. Then, and I need you to understand this. Then, this absolute madman reached out and grabbed the Class 9 biohazard with his bare hands. I stopped breathing. All 3 of my lungs just gave up. The pathogen wrapped around his fingers like it was greeting an old friend. It pulsed. It shimmered. It did all the horrible things Class 9 pathogens do right before they reduce your internal organs to infectious soup. Marcus lifted it up to eye level. Now, he said, his voice taking on that particular tone humans use when they're lecturing something, we talked about this. You don't get to go walk about just because you're feeling lonely. Back in the box. The pathogen, I swear on my ancestors, seemed to deflate. Don't give me that, Marcus continued, carrying this ball of concentrated death back toward what was left of its containment unit. You know the rules, you want playtime, you wait for scheduled interactions. Breaking out is bad manners. The AI had stopped making sounds. I think it was experiencing the electronic equivalent of existential crisis. I finally found my voice. Dr. Reeves. My translator made my panic sound almost dignified. Almost. That is a Class 9 infectious agent. You are experiencing direct dermal contact with a pathogen that has a higher mortality rate than vacuum exposure. Oh hey Vorn, Marcus waved, with the hand holding the death blob. Yeah, don't worry about it. This is Betty. You named it? Well yeah, we've been working together for 3 months now. Would be rude not to. The pathogen, Betty apparently, made a sound like wind chimes having a seizure. She's a modified Vexlar syndrome carrier, Marcus explained, carefully placing the organism into a new containment cylinder he pulled from a cabinet, one he'd apparently prepared in advance. We're developing immunity treatments for the outer colonies. She's actually pretty docile once you establish baseline neural contact. Neural contact, I repeated, my translator definitely catching the hysteria in my voice. You established neural contact with a Class 9 biohazard, Class 8, actually. The 9 classification was preliminary. He sealed the container, and Betty settled down, her colors shifting to what I can only describe as content. The mortality rate drops to, like 4% once you've been properly vaccinated and desensitized. Basic immunology. The AI finally rebooted. Dr. Reeves, station protocols require immediate medical quarantine following Class 9 exposure, duration minimum 72 hours, full decontamination sequence. Can we make it 48? I've got a poker game Thursday. Educative. Worth a shot. Marcus started cleaning up the dissolved titanium with what appeared to be a standard mop. A mop. Vorn, you want to let everyone know they can stand down? Betty's back in her box. Everything's fine. Everything was not fine. Everything was the opposite of fine. Fine was several star systems away, having a nice vacation. I pulled up my command tablet with shaking claws. Station-wide alert, containment breach resolved. Stand down from emergency protocols. I paused. Medical team to Sector 12 for routine observation. Routine, someone squawked over the command channel. That was a Class 9 breach. Class 8, Marcus called out helpfully, apparently hearing the comms. Common mistake. 3 hours later, after 17 different scans confirmed that Marcus Reeves somehow, impossibly, wasn't dying or dissolving or sprouting infectious tumors, I found him in the station cafeteria, eating a sandwich, drinking coffee, looking completely unbothered by his recent intimate encounter with weaponized death. I sat down across from him with my nutrient paste, trying to organize my thoughts into something resembling coherent speech. So, I finally managed. Betty. Good girl, really? Marcus took a bite of his sandwich, bit clingy, but we're working on boundaries. You grabbed a Class 9, Class 8 biohazard, with your bare hands. Class 8-ish. More like a 7.5 after vaccination. He sipped his coffee. Look, I get it. Seems crazy from the outside. But humans have this thing, we've always had it. We look at stuff that wants to kill us, and we think, how can I make this useful? Useful? Sure. Bacteria, viruses, fungi. We've been playing with deadly microorganisms since before we had proper microscopes. Weaponized smallpox. We turned it into a vaccine, botulinum toxin, cosmetic enhancement and migraine treatment. That thing that causes tetanus. Legitimate research model, he gestured with his sandwich. Betty's just the next step. Year from now we'll have a full treatment protocol for Vexel syndrome. Save millions of lives across the outer colonies. I stared at him. Your species sees something that dissolves titanium and thinks, let's pet it. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds dumb. Marcus grinned. We prefer let's carefully establish a working relationship through graduated exposure and rigorous safety protocols. You grabbed it with your bare hands. After 18 months of preparation. Yeah. He pulled out a datapad, showed me files, dense medical files. See? Vaccinations series, controlled exposure therapy, genetic compatibility testing, neural response conditioning. It's all very scientific. The data was legitimate, thorough, the kind of research that would take most species decades. Humans had apparently done it in less than 2 cycles, and decided the best final test was, just grab the thing. Your species is insane, I said. Probably. Marcus finished his sandwich. But we're really good at making friends with things that want to kill us. It's kind of our specialty. The cafeteria doors opened, and Dr. Yelena Kovar walked in, another human. She spotted Marcus, rolled her eyes, and headed our way. Heard you went full cowboy on Betty again, she said, sitting down. She was lonely. She's a pathogen, Marcus. Pathogens don't get lonely. This one does. She's got rudimentary neural structures. We've confirmed it. Yelena looked at me. Has he given you the whole humans a special speech yet? I was building up to it, Marcus protested. We're not special, Yelena said flatly. We're just really, really stubborn. Most species see a deadly pathogen and think, stay away. Humans see it and think, not if I befriend it first. She paused. It's gotten us in trouble, a lot. But it's also how we've survived approximately 4,000 extinction-level events on our home world. 4,000 seems high, I said weakly. Low estimate, actually. Marcus nodded. Earth's basically a death world that's trying really hard to kill everything on it. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, meteor impacts, magnetic pole reversals, you name it. And that's not counting all the biological nastiness. Plague, pox, parasites. We evolved alongside things that wanted to eat us, infect us, dissolve us, poison us. So yeah, we got pretty good at turning predators into partners. Hence Betty, Yelena added. Hence Betty, Marcus agreed. I looked between them, these 2 humans sitting calmly in a cafeteria aboard a station specifically designed to contain horrors, talking about weaponized pathogens like they were discussing the weather. You're both completely mad, I said. Oh, absolutely, Yelena agreed cheerfully. Question is, Marcus said, leaning forward with that particular human expression that meant trouble, do you want to meet Betty properly? She's really quite fascinating once you get past the whole mortal terror thing. No, I said immediately. Come on, Vorn, live a little. I would prefer to continue living a lot, actually. They both laughed. That particular human laugh that meant they were going to talk me into something stupid. And here's the thing. The terrible, horrible, no good thing. I was actually considering it. Because that's what humans do. They look at the universe's nightmares and say, hold my beverage, and somehow, impossibly, they make it work. They turn death into medicine, predators into pets, and absolute disasters into Tuesday afternoon. And standing there listening to them talk about Betty like she was a colleague rather than an existential threat, I realized something terrifying. If humans could make friends with a Class 8 biohazard, what else were they capable? What other horrors of the universe were they currently eyeing up, thinking, I bet I could train that? The galaxy, I suspected, was about to find out. So against every survival instinct my species spent 10 million years developing, I said yes. Not immediately, mind you. I spent a good 48 hours convincing myself this was a terrible idea, filing approximately 37 safety waivers, and updating my will, but eventually curiosity won out over common sense, which, I was learning, was a very human trait that apparently spread through prolonged exposure. Great. Now I was catching their crazy. Dr. Marcus Reeves met me outside Lab 12 Delta wearing what he called his teaching outfit, which looked identical to his regular lab coat, except for a small patch that read, I survived Betty. I decided not to ask how many versions of that patch existed for people who hadn't survived. Ready? Marcus asked, way too cheerfully for someone about to introduce me to concentrated death. No, I said honestly. Let's proceed anyway. That's the spirit, he palmed the security panel. Okay, so ground rules. Betty responds to calm energy. No sudden movements, no panic pheromones if you can help it, and definitely no aggressive posturing. She interprets threat displays as invitations to, well, dissolve things. Wonderful. Comforting. I'm filled with confidence. The lab door slid open with a hiss that sounded uncomfortably like a death rattle. Inside, the space was surprisingly normal. Clean white surfaces, standard equipment, monitoring stations humming quietly, and there, in the center containment field, was Betty. She'd grown since the breach, now about the size of a large melon, pulsing gently through shades of blue and purple that my translator couldn't even properly process. She was, I had to admit, kind of beautiful, in that stare too long and your brain starts melting kind of way. "Betty girl, we've got a visitor," Marcus said, approaching the containment field. "This is Vorn. He's a friend, probably. We're still working on that definition." The pathogen shifted, colors rippling. A sound emanated from the containment unit, something between a purr and a quantum equation, having a nervous breakdown. "She's curious," Marcus translated. "Wants to know what species you are." Betty's fascinated by xenobiology, ironically. "The deadly pathogen is fascinated by xenobiology," I repeated slowly. "The pathogen is fascinated. She's got basic pattern recognition and learning capabilities. We think she's actually semi-sentient or at least semi-adjacent to sentient. The neural structures are primitive, but surprisingly complex." Marcus pulled up a holographic display showing Betty's internal structure. "See these nodules? They form something like a distributed nervous system. She can learn, remember, even demonstrate preferences." I leaned closer, professional curiosity overriding terror. The structures were fascinating. Chaotic but organized, like someone had designed a brain out of pure infection and somehow made it work. "How is this possible?" I asked. "We have no idea," Marcus said happily. "Best guess? She's from a planet where biological warfare was the dominant evolutionary strategy. Organisms developed intelligence as a way to better identify and infiltrate hosts. Betty's ancestors were probably ambush predators that could analyze prey defenses in real time. And you thought, let's make friends with the intelligent infectious disease? When you say it like that, it sounds reckless. Because it is reckless. Reckless implies lack of planning." Dr. Yelena Kovar entered the lab behind us, carrying a tray of equipment. "What Marcus is doing is highly calculated recklessness. Completely different thing." "Is it though?" I muttered. Yelena started setting up monitoring equipment around the containment field. "Vorn, you want to understand humans? Here's the key. We don't see things as impossible. We see them as not yet figured out. That pathogen? Most species look at it and see death. Marcus looked at it and saw a puzzle. A puzzle that kills you if you solve it wrong." I pointed out. "Best kind of puzzle," Marcus said. "High stakes, high reward. Besides, dying's easy. Living's the interesting part." Betty pulsed brighter, and I swear she was following the conversation. Her colors shifted to match Marcus's vocal patterns, like she was trying to participate. "Okay, so here's what we're going to do," Marcus continued. "Basic introduction protocol. I'm going to lower the containment field slightly. Let Betty extend a sensory filament. She'll analyze your biochemistry, figure out if you're compatible. If you are, she'll mark you as safe. If you're not, well, the field goes back up and we know you need the extended vaccination series before we try again. And if she decides I'm lunch, then the containment field stays up and you're fine. Betty can't breach reinforced fields." "Well, she can, but only if she's really motivated, and we've established protocols for that." "You've established protocols for her escaping again?" "Oh yeah. Happens about once a month. She gets bored." Marcus tapped the control panel. "Ready?" I absolutely was not ready, but I nodded anyway, because apparently I'd left my survival instincts back in the cafeteria. The containment field shimmered, and a small opening appeared. Betty immediately extended a thin filament through the gap, about the width of my claw. It waved in the air like a tiny tentacle, searching. "Just hold still," Marcus said softly. "Let her come to you." The filament drifted closer. I could see it properly now, iridescent and shifting, definitely not following standard laws of physics. It touched my outstretched hand, and I felt warmth, curiosity. Something that definitely shouldn't be coming from a pathogen. Betty's colors shifted rapidly. Processing. The filament traced patterns across my scales, gentle, almost careful. "She likes you," Marcus said, grinning. "See how she's cycling through green and gold. That's her happy color range. The disease has emotions, I said faintly. We're anthropomorphizing a biological weapon. Xenomorphizing, technically. And yes, Yelena was recording everything on multiple scanners. Fascinating. Your biochemistry is close enough to standard protein chains that she's reading you as potential symbiote rather than host. That's rare. Symbiote? I watched the filament retreat back into the containment field. Betty pulsed contentedly, settling into a soft golden glow. What does that mean? Marcus and Yelena exchanged looks. The kind of looks that meant they'd been discussing something and hadn't told anyone yet. Okay, so Marcus started. We maybe haven't been entirely forthcoming about Betty's full capabilities. Oh good, I was worried this was going to stay nice and simple. Betty doesn't just infect, Yelena explained, pulling up more data. She integrates in hostile organisms. That integration is destructive. But in compatible organisms, with proper preparation, she can actually enhance biological functions. Improved immune response, accelerated healing, increased resistance to radiation and toxins. I stared at them. You're talking about voluntary infection. We're talking about symbiosis, Marcus corrected. Controlled, beneficial, completely reversible symbiosis. We've been testing it for 3 months. 17 human volunteers, all showing remarkable improvements. No negative side effects beyond some initial discomfort and a brief period where you glow in the dark. You glow? Just for a few days. Kind of cool, actually. Marcus pulled up his sleeve, showing a faint luminescence under the skin. Betty's establishing neural pathways. Once she's integrated, you get the benefits without the whole dissolving from the inside thing. This was insane. This was beyond insane. This was actually kind of brilliant. Let me understand this properly, I said slowly. You've taken a Class 8 biohazard, befriended it, trained it and turned it into a medical treatment. Cutting-edge xenobiology, baby, Marcus said proudly. We're calling it adaptive symbiotic therapy. AST for short. Fast-tracked for approval in 3 colonies already. But why? I asked. Why take this risk? Why not just develop conventional treatments? Yelena smiled. Because conventional takes decades. Betty takes weeks. And there are approximately 47 million people in the outer colonies suffering from diseases we can't currently treat. Vexlar syndrome alone kills 3,000 people a day. Betty can cure it in 72 hours. The galaxy is dying slowly, Marcus added, his voice going serious. Radiation exposure, exotic pathogens, environmental toxins from terraforming. Humans aren't the only ones suffering. Every species out here is dealing with conditions that conventional medicine can't touch. But Betty, she's adaptable, she learns. She can be modified to target specific conditions, specific species, specific biochemistries. He walked over to the containment field, placed his hand against the barrier. Betty moved closer, pressing against the field from her side, matching his gesture. Everyone sees a monster, Marcus said quietly. I see a cure. And there it was. That particular brand of human optimism that made them look at the universe's horrors and see potential, that made them reach out to things that should be avoided forever, and say, what if we're wrong about you? It was terrifying. It was inspiring. It was so profoundly human that I felt my understanding of the species shift completely. You're going to change everything, aren't you? I said. That's the plan, Yelena confirmed. Humans have been doing this for millennia. We domesticated wolves into dogs, turned wild grasses into crops, made fire our tool instead of our enemy. Betty's just the next step. The galaxy thinks in terms of threats and safety. Humans think in terms of potential and partnership. Plus, Marcus added, grinning again, it's really fun to freak out the safety inspectors. The lab doors burst open and Commander Thex stormed in, all 4 of his arms gesticulating wildly. Thex was a Corthian, built like a tank, crossed with the angry boulder, and currently the head of station security. Reeves, I just got the report that you're conducting unauthorized exposure tests with the Class 9 biohazard. Class 8 Marcus, Yelena, and I said simultaneously. Thex's eye stalks swiveled between us. You too, Vorn? They've corrupted you too? Corrupted is a strong word, I said. Persuaded through evidence-based argument and shameless peer pressure is more accurate. Betty's perfectly safe, Marcus assured him. Want to meet her? I want her destroyed, the lab sterilized, and you in psychological evaluation. Betty, apparently sensing the hostility, shifted to angry red. The temperature in the lab dropped noticeably. Commander, Yelena said calmly, I understand your concerns, but look at the data. 17 successful integrations, 0 fatalities, measurable health improvements across all subjects. We're on the verge of a major medical breakthrough. We're on the verge of a catastrophic outbreak. Been there, done that, got the patch, Marcus said cheerfully. Betty's escaped twice. Both times she came back on her own. She doesn't want to spread, she wants to help. Pathogens don't help, they infect. Most pathogens, I found myself saying. But Betty's demonstrated unusual behavior, pattern recognition, learned responses, even what appears to be preference-based decision-making. She's anomalous. Thex's eye stalks focused on me. You're defending it now? I'm defending proper scientific analysis over panic-driven protocol. Where was this coming from? When had I become the reasonable voice supporting intentional exposure to infectious agents? Commander, we have an opportunity here. Yes, there's risk. But the potential patents, they're extraordinary. Betty had calmed down, shifting back to her golden glow. She extended another filament, this time toward Thex, curious rather than aggressive. The commander stepped back. Keep that thing away from me. She's just curious, Marcus said. You're new. Different biology. She wants to learn. I don't care what it wants. Sir, Yelena pulled up a holographic display. 3 months ago, Colony 7 suffered a massive outbreak of Thornridge fever. Mortality rate 60%, no effective treatment. We sent Betty properly contained with a medical team. She adapted in 18 hours, created a targeted antibiotic response, saved 4,000 lives. Thex stared at the display. You deployed it? Off station? With full authorization from medical command, Yelena confirmed. Colony 7's outbreak is completely contained. They're calling Betty a miracle. They're calling a Class 8 biohazard a miracle, Thex said slowly. Class 7.5, Marcus interjected. She keeps improving. The commander looked at Betty, who was now displaying what I could only describe as hopeful colors. Then at Marcus. Then at the data scrolling across the displays, medical records, survival rates, before and after statistics that were genuinely impressive. This is insane, Thex finally said. Yes, we all agree. Completely against protocol. Also, yes. And you're telling me this thing is helpful? Betty pulsed enthusiastically, cycling through rainbow colors. Marcus grinned. Want to meet her properly? I've got spare vaccines. Absolutely not. Your loss. She gives great hugs. It's a pathogen. A friendly pathogen. I watched them argue, watched Betty respond to the emotional content of the conversation like she understood every word, watched Yelena calmly document everything with the patience of someone who'd had this exact argument 17 times already. And I realized something profound. This was humanity's real strength. Not their technology, not their adaptability, not even their ridiculous tendency to befriend things that should eat them. It was their absolute, unshakable belief that the universe could be better, that monsters could become friends, that diseases could become cures, that everything terrible had the potential to be transformed into something wonderful. They looked at a Class 8 biohazard and saw Betty. They looked at certain death and saw opportunity. They looked at the impossible and said, not yet. It was the most human thing I'd ever witnessed. So, Marcus said, turning to me while Thex continued his tirade in the background, poker game Thursday, you in. Will Betty be there? Probably. She likes cards. Can't hold them, but she likes watching. Then yes, I heard myself say, I'm in. Because that's what humans did. They made you believe in impossible things. They made you reach out to monsters. They made you think that maybe, just maybe, the universe was full of friends you hadn't met yet. Even if those friends could dissolve titanium, especially if those friends could dissolve titanium. Thex was still arguing. Betty was still glowing. Marcus was already dealing invisible cards in the air, practicing. Yelena was scheduling my vaccination series. And me? I was learning the most important lesson about humanity that any alien could learn. When a human says I got the vaccine, they're not just talking about immunity. They're talking about possibility.